And welcome to another episode of Knights of the Round Table. That was my beautiful wife that wanted to come in on that. The queen to the right. We got Bo Beast. Keep it in the streets.
Yeah.
Can't get none for free.
Wait, what?
No.
Bo Beast.
High price. You're
Find her
valuable,
in the streets. Won't get nothing for free.
I work the most expensive corner. Thank
We
you
got
so
the queen,
much.
lean and mean. You know what I'm saying? And we got Be Real, Man of Steel.
I keep it trill.
Keep it trill.
Shout out to Bum B.
Out on the hill, you know what I'm saying? Hey, it's Knights at the Round Table. It's a beautiful night here. If you're watching us on YouTube, I'm wearing glasses.
That's what was so great about you rapping, was that you kind of like live it like money nerdy.
Yeah, I'm wearing glasses. You know why? Because tonight we're talking about money. It's called money.
If you haven't figured it out already,
we're talking about money because I have a sweater vest on and glasses.
Duh.
And to me, who else would you take advice from?
Waldo.
Than a guy with a sweater vest.
Where is my money?
And glasses. I'm feeling real astute right now. We're going to talk about money, but first, the reason we're going to talk about money, we got this Prosecco because is this fancy? This is fancy,
I feel like
right?
you try to tie things in sometimes. And
You don't need to.
Well, that's why I just asked. I said, money, is this like, do fancy people?
This week, you guys, we're doing Prosecco. It's sparkling wine. It's not technically champagne, even though when you're like, oh, let's get some champs, you're going to get a Prosecco. You're going to get a sparkling wine. But really, it's not champagne unless it's from champagne. So this week is Prosecco and Rufino. This one's actually really good.
It's really nice.
It says extra dry, but it's actually kind of sweet. Italian white sparkling wine.
I don't mind it.
Rufino
Yeah.
Prosecco
I can
is produced
taste
from the beautiful
peach
vineyards
and
of the
apples.
northeastern region of Italy. Creamy and crisp. The
Cool.
sparkling wine has hints of peach and golden apples.
Hey! Good job. I read the back of it.
Oh, you cheated.
So let's
you
taste
liar.
It's good.
Speaking of money,
Taste.
cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, and
Cheers
just to
this
point out,
episode.
we did pick it out because we were talking about money. Just saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I could get down with this.
I like. Do you like it, babe?
I do like it.
It's the rich version of, what was that one we had the other day? Martinelli's. It's the wealthy
you
version
can't get
of
higher
that.
than Martinelli's. That's the
That's
top of the food
18s
chain.
What
That's
was it?
1864 gold medal.
1868 because I
Organic.
remember tasting it and I was like, ooh, this tastes like a 68.
Yeah. So hey, okay, so we've had requests about this conversation. When me and Ange, we did a money talk on MANWELL'S video, we got so much response because apparently people really care about money. And it's true. I mean, most relationships break up because of money. That's like the number one. Sex is number two, which we'll also talk about that. But money's an important conversation to have, especially within relationships. Even for you single Thundercats out there trying to get into a relationship.
Single Thundercat.
These little
New dating
Thundercats out
bio.
here trying to score someone.
Swipe right
Oh my
for
gosh.
dating a single Thundercat.
Little
Yeah.
Thundercat. So we decided to have a conversation about it. But first, we're gonna start off with some. You know, I don't know if it's joking.
We're gonna do some
questions.
icebreakers.
Icebreaker question.
We're going to get to
Tricky
know each
questions.
other around the table.
Okay, ready?
Get to know each
Number
other.
one, numero uno. And if you're listening, you can answer this too and say it loud because we'll hear you.
Or comment on the Instagram.
I want to see how many people do that. If you had $1 million to waste, not invest, but $1 million to waste, and can only spend it on one thing, what would it be?
Ooh.
Shoot, I would go on these just crazy vacations and just like live it up in all these exotic places. Can I just group all vacations in that just that one?
So like an
million?
around the world trip.
Yeah, like around the world trip at like the best beaches in the entire world, and then probably the last beach I stay at, I'd probably try and buy it or something crazy. I don't know.
$1 million don't go that far, bro.
There's got to be some little island off the coast of like Indonesia.
It's
you
not
know?
even a good one. Like, not even one you go back to.
Yeah, nah, just like because I got it like
Just
that.
say you own an
know?
island. And I'm calling it Brandon.
Okay, where would you do?
I think the vacation one, like, is for sure something that I'd want to do. Like, take a private jet with a few friends and we just go to, like, just Greece and Europe and just, like, live it up. If you can only do it on one trip and it's money to waste, just, like, an entire memory like that where we just, like, live it up.
Mhm.
That or just go ham one day in every store. Do you think you can spend $1 million in
Oh,
one
for
day?
sure.
Easy.
Yo, I wonder. But then I'd be so sad at the end of the day. I'd be like, I have clothes. Cool. Ma.
But you wouldn't need clothes for like at least a good 5 years.
Yeah.
You'd
Imagine
be
all the jewelry
straight.
too.
Yeah.
No, and jewelry can go real
I think
fast.
I'm more of a memory person. So I think like I do the vacations. Yeah, lock
Okay.
it in. Vacations.
2 vacations, babe.
I was
3.
originally thinking a private jet to a vacation.
Yep.
But
We could put our money together and then our vacation
there,
could be longer.
there we
Love it. Love that.
we could split the cost of the private
I
jet.
love that for us.
Wow.
I think if it's not a private jet vacation, I would distribute it to my family. I mean, it's not an investment, but that's what I would.
I guess that's
Yeah,
living
I
it
would
up.
I would
mean,
buy
don't know.
Bibles for children in
We
Africa.
meant
Stole
waste.
my
That's not
idea.
really wasting it. Like money to waste. Like you'd
Yeah, that's a
Like,
good
just,
thing.
Just think fun money.
like maybe if you said I'd buy all of my
Okay,
family cars. Or
then-
something.
Well, maybe I would bring them all with me on this vacation
wait.
private
Like,
jet.
how big's our private jet? that we're
Like, definitely my mom.
Love that.
Are you gonna list the people that you would bring?
Yeah.
We don't have time for all that. This family will
Oh,
come.
Kenny,
My immediate family.
Okay, family will come. Okay,
Veronica,
good. All
My
right, cool.
immediate family.
Yeah.
love that.
I would buy a 918 Spider. That's a Porsche Spider.
How much is that car worth?
It's worth 1.4.
No, you've only got one. Talk them down in price.
Now I'll make up the rest. I'm trying to
No.
waste it. I'm trying to waste it. I'll finance the rest.
Ooh. That's
I'll
Finance
finance
it.
the
speaking of being smart with your money.
rest. Do you know how much that car will be worth in 20 years? They only made a limited number. It'll be worth double.
Like how? What kind of number are we talking about?
So now
Like
you're
it'll be
being
worth
wise.
over $2 million.
So you're being wise
Look
and
who's
not
not
like-
wasting his
how
money.
many have they made of those?
Oh man,
5.
I gotta say like in the hundreds, maybe
yeah,
not even that
500.
high.
500.
But it would be a waste. It would be a lavish thing because what car is worth that much? But it'll gain value.
No.
What? That's
It's not a waste if you already are thinking about how you're going to get the money back.
Well, it's not. I don't ever want to sell it. I'm just saying it's a $1 million car. That is lavish. You know what I'm saying? Like that's people don't do that. So I would do a
Alright.
918 Spider. Question number 2: worst financial decision you've ever made.
Oh.
In keeping in step with cars, I recently bought a classic 911 Porsche. And it's definitely not the worst decision because it's going to catch up. But I've spent more money on the front end than what it's currently worth right now. So, but it's not even that bad. I'm maybe 20,000 under on it.
On a smaller scale, for me, I think my worst financial investment was in shoes. So as soon as I signed my first pro contract, I was so juiced. I was like, yeah, I got money in my pocket now. I want this shoe. I want this shoe. I want this shoe. And that kind of became the phrase for that season. And so my shoe collection grew from like 50 something to like over 220 pairs.
First of all,
Right.
50 is a lot.
Yeah, you started pretty strong.
I know. And,
He's like, you're welcome.
you know,
That's like, with
I've-
girls with makeup.
Yeah, I've always been a
Okay.
shoe guy, especially playing hoops, like, and then being in love with hip hop. Like, both those cultures are huge.
You were on that show?
sneakers.
Just kidding.
Oh man, I'd be like trying to preach on that show. And so yeah, so like I ran out of room in my own room to store these shoes, so it became like not my house, my friend's house as well, guest room, closets, all this sorts
You
of
opened the
stuff.
cabinets in the kitchen, just shoes.
Shoes.
It's
And-
definitely a guy thing. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
the first thing I did when
and
I
what
got money.
sucked
Love
was
Groove.
because like not all those shoes were like hype or like great sneakers that you could like flip and make your money back or
Mhm.
more. So a lot of those shoes I lost so much money on. So
Mhm.
like I remember there was these one pair of the Nikes that came out. They were like these woven Neva or Nova, something like that. It was like retail for like $230. The best that I could get for them was $45.
No.
So imagining having like 4 pairs of those things
No.
flipping around only to sell 4 pairs to make up
Buddy.
money for 1 pair. So I lost thousands of dollars during that
Cool.
time of my life. So
Nice.
good
Dude.
times.
I have a similar story to Manny, except like, I don't know, like 100th of the cost. When I first moved to LA, one of our like staff members was just kind of like trying to be a dad and like, we're gonna get you a car, it's gonna be great. At the time, I couldn't lease one, so I had to buy one, and I had like $500, and I was like, this is gonna be fine. We're fine. Got a Volkswagen Beetle through a friend of a friend of a dealer of a dealer of a friend, just like one of those LA things. and this little tiny Volkswagen Bug that had the door was like off its hinge a little, the driver door. The thing you pull out on the passenger seat, what's that? The glove box.
Yeah.
Didn't have a glove or a box in it. It was just like a hole in the thing. Anytime you put the AC on, it would like blow dust in your face, immediate allergies. And then all on that, I called her like in the end just called her Shakira. Her hips don't lie, and neither does her engine. Like she just was a beat. Like she was so rude because she would just wake up on a Wednesday morning. I would be like, Shakira, let's go, babe. Time to go. And she'd be like, nah, I had a late night. Like she just would decide when she wasn't going to work. Like I remember she was hungover and I was like, you and me both, just start. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she like would just stop. Like I remember getting gas one time and stopping in the like middle of the gas station trying to like start. I used up all 3 AAA visits in 1 month, and then we decided to get rid of her, found a way to lease a car. But it was like horrible, and yet like toxic friendships, you know, you can still find sweet memories.
Yeah.
It's one of those.
She's probably out there somewhere.
She is.
AAA is still trying to investigate you for fraud. There's no way.
But you already say yours.
No.
What was yours?
Mine, I don't know if it's the worst financial mistake, but I sold out a show in Las Vegas and I wanted to treat myself.
Oh my
and
God, I remember this.
I never do this.
Go-go
I
dances.
never
Ugh.
listen. I don't want to toot my own horn, you guys, but I've been selling out shows for a really long time.
Toot it.
And I
Toot, toot.
rarely ever use I'm going to celebrate because I sold out a show, because that's like, I'm going to celebrate. I went to work today. Like,
hey, listen, sometimes you got to do that.
And
Nothing wrong with
so
that.
we were in Vegas and I was like, I'm going to buy a fancy purse. And so we go into Chanel and I was like, oh, hell no, these is way too fancy. I'm not spending that much money. I still got morals and boundaries. No. And so we went into Jimmy Choo, and I knew that Jimmy Choo is like a fancy name, but they're known for shoes, not bags. But I'm not thinking that. I just like was like, oh, fancy name, closer to my price range. It was like $1,000, I think. And it was like a metallic-y purse that I would never wear. But in that moment, I was feeling like frisky, and I was like, yeah, I'll rock this metallic-y $1,000 purse.
No.
And I think I used it maybe once or twice. And then
I sold it.
Manny was like, we need to sell this purse. And I was like, fine.
I was so angry. I was
Like,
like
so listen. So I was like, fine, we'll sell the purse then. And so he puts it up online, sells it. And my husband has this smart idea to put it in like an old like Louis box, right? Just so it like looks fancy.
That was that one?
And he goes to the post office to drop it off, and he leaves it on the counter.
Many.
And
No, that's what they told
someone-
me to do. That when you go to the post office, they say, put it on the counter, we'll pick it up.
Someone
So I
stole
put
it.
it
stole it.
On the counter, right where they
No.
told me, and someone stole it.
Someone stole
And I had to
the
refund.
box, so
the
he had to
people.
refund. So we lost that money.
How much
for
were you
that
going to sell it
purse.
for? How much did you sell it
That's probably like $500 or
Like
something.
$500,
Like
Oh.
half. Yeah.
Shakira.
It was Shakira. You could have bought Shakira.
Would have bought another
Wow.
one.
Yep.
But I told her not to. I mean, I was like, Jimmy Choo for a purse, man. I'm like, but it's whatever, as long as it made her happy.
It was a night to remember.
Okay, question number 3. What was the worst gift you gave? What is the gift that you gave to an ex that you wish you can get back?
A wedding. Elise.
Come
Stop.
That was quick. That was very
It's a
quick.
good answer,
Do you
though.
want to unpack this?
Definitely not. Brandon, what about you?
Where's man, I treated myself and my ex-girlfriend to a trip to Puerto Rico, and I covered the cost, and that sucks because we talked about this, I think, in the first season of like signs of abuse, and I had shared how one of my things was like
That's right.
withholding affection.
Yeah.
And I'm a big affection guy. And I'm like, Trick, I brought you all the way out here to Puerto Rico, and you ain't gonna show me no love. You're mad at me from a dumb thing that you interpreted at the airport. Yeah, so we got in this huge fight at the airport, and she was mad because I went in front of her in the boarding line.
How dare you?
And she held it against me the entire Puerto Rico trip.
Oh, no.
And it was not even like, we're not having sex, okay? But I'm like, girl, you can't kiss me. You
Right.
can't like hold me, like none of this. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh man, I was so mad. And I literally felt like I literally just wasted money on this because we're not growing
Dang.
closer. And I'm done. And literally we broke up later it was like 4 months later. I was like, bye.
Wow.
Oh, jeez.
What about you, babe?
I don't really have one of these.
You never spent money on girls?
No, I did, but I never spent like when I
Okay,
was
you gotta
dating.
pick one,
When
though.
I was dating whack ass chicks, I didn't really have money like that. You know what I'm saying?
It doesn't have to be like a trip.
It was a nice dinner.
No,
nice
like I
date.
don't regret any of those. Like I don't have like a story like that. I mean, I can say where I wasted money myself. Like one time I got on a plane like at 2 a.m. because that was
For a booty call.
I was seeing this girl. And she was in Ohio.
Dang.
She was in Ohio, and I was like, "I'll meet you. Pick me up at 8." So I got on a plane at 6. Pick me up at 8. But it was fun. It was a fun weekend. So I can't even say that was whack. I don't have
Hold
any.
up, you got. I
Gotta
can't.
like
I can't unpack
that.
that. We don't have time.
Well, I would say this is what comes to my mind only because I was just talking about this the other day. Otherwise, I probably would have forgot that this even happened. I was seeing a guy and I flew him out to one of my shows. And the whole time, kind of a little bit similar to you, but different motives, would not show me any affection in public at all. Not put his arm around me. When I would lean in, he would pull away.
Oh.
And I had told my family, oh, I'm bringing this guy that I'm like kind of dating, and all of them were like,
Are you sure?
I don't get it. Like, who's this guy? Like,
Yeah.
What? And then I remember talking to my sister about it the next day, and she was like, hey, I don't think this guy's the one. And I was like, no, I'm beginning to see that as well, actually. And I remember on the way home, we flew home. And at this point, I remember being like, okay, it's like a test. And I would like lay my head on his shoulder just to see if he would move.
Yeah.
Right. And he
Yeah.
would, like in public. But
you
if no one was
serious?
around,
Whoa.
then he wouldn't. And so when we landed and I dropped him off somewhere, I was like, hey, I don't think we should date anymore. And he was like, yeah, I agree. And in my mind, I remember thinking like, okay, I know why I'm saying this because I've learned a lot about how you value me
Yeah.
and don't. But clearly you already knew how you felt in this situation, but you still accepted a trip from me.
Mm.
Like you used me for that trip. Like
Mhm.
that was a waste of money.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yup. Did you ask for the money back?
No.
Man,
You're like, yo,
I'll
I'm
send you a
gonna
bill.
need a
really,
flight
I'm
voucher.
really,
bro.
No.
I'm kind of mad. I don't
I
have
think
one of
he
these
still.
stories.
I think he still needs
You've
it.
always
So
been wise with your money.
I'm gonna
man.
keep thinking.
I was mine. I mean, I could probably say a lot. That sounded like
I thought it was the wedding. I thought that
Yeah,
was
it would have been
Yeah.
the wedding.
Wedding.
There would have been another one. A past relationship. He had never been to Disneyland, and so for his birthday, I planned this entire day at Disneyland. Bought everything. Bought like all the things that go with a Disneyland.
Disneyland's
trip.
expensive, first of all.
It's freaking expensive.
Oh yeah, and it just keeps getting more expensive
As you get it. Like, and I had done the whole day. Like, and it was like all the bits and pieces that go along with Disneyland, not just the tickets. And I remember we were gonna like obviously go for the whole day, and I was like ready to get him at like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or something. And we didn't end up leaving his apartment until 2 p.m.
No.
Yeah. And then when we got there, he was on
No.
the phone the whole
No.
time. Yeah. And like,
Mm.
I remember
No.
just being like, this is the what? This is not the happiest place on earth right now. This sucks. And I remember
Ugh.
like going home and it like being about him because like he was trying to look for a job or something like that. I don't know.
That's
But
stressful.
I was like, dang, I want to take someone else that loves the happiest place on
Yeah.
earth. Someone that loves Frozen and Mickey Mouse. Thank you.
That sucks.
I've had many good Disneyland trips since then, so don't worry, guys.
Well, hey, let's dive
don't
into
have
it.
one?
No, I really don't.
All
I'm
right.
literally thinking, and I just don't have a bad.
Good
a
for
bad
you.
one. I'm pretty smart with the whole money thing.
Speaking of, what a great segue.
Look, we're gonna talk about how we were raised with the money. Because look, money, the way we view money has a lot to do with what we saw growing up and how money was either available to us as a child or not available to us as a child. And so it directly impacts the way we see money and how we act towards it and how we are within a relationship. I know the first time when we got married, we did one of those, what is the book? Saving Marriage Before You Starts?
We did that one.
And it talked
101
about-
questions to ask before you get engaged.
Yeah, it talked about money, which was a big thing to me because when we got engaged, the girl that my homeboy's wife said when we got engaged, there was the 3 things she said. She was like, she's beautiful, she loves the Lord, and she's out of debt. Right? Those are the 3 things she said because she knew exactly what my criteria was. And so I was like, okay, dope. So when we started getting together, we didn't really talk about money too much. I know she picked me up in a Lexus for the first time, so I was like, all right, she ain't broke. And then we went back to her crib, and I was like, okay, she has her own crib, she's doing things, but we never. I never inquired. I'm not like nosy like that. So we never really talked about money until we got engaged, and then it was like, all right, open up the accounts. What's up? What do we got? But the dope thing is that we were like on the same page with money. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But we had to answer this questionnaire talking about like how we saw things growing up and how we expect things to be. So with money growing up, with my family, my mom legit had a poor man's mentality. Like legit. She's typical Puerto Rican. The air is set at 78, which is not even air at that point.
You out here sweating in your chonies.
She has it at 78. If I open the door too long, we're in trouble. If I open the fridge too long, I'm in trouble. If I'm taking a shower too long, I'm in trouble. To this day, if I go to your house and I take a shower, I will be in and out in 5 minutes. In and out in 5 minutes because I'm like, this is not my water. I don't want to waste anybody's water. And, you know, I got to be in and out.
He tries to rush me on my showers too.
Yeah, she'll be taking a shower, and I'm like,
even today, this morning, I was taking a
just
shower, but we were having a conversation, and he goes, "Babe, wash yourself while you're talking." Because I was just standing.
I always say that. I'm like, if my mom was here, she'd be so mad at you right now.
She'd just be fuming.
She'd be fuming, and you know, I thought that's how everybody was raised. You know what I'm saying? And it didn't hit me until we get engaged, and then we get married, and she made me sell my car because she thought my car was a midlife crisis. And so I came over here with nothing. I sold everything in Orlando except my house, and I came over here with nothing. But then we ended up buying me a new car. So I got a BMW 6 Series, and we paid cash for it, right? As I'm driving this car, this is not even an exaggeration, I probably looked at the gas tank every 5 seconds as I was driving it. It's not a hyperbole. I'm not like just being whatever. Like every 5 seconds, I was looking at the gas tank because it kept going so fast. Mm-hmm. And I came from like, we had a little Altima before that. And so it was great on gas. I was so affected because I swear to God, I thought I'm not going to have enough money to put gas in this car. Even though we just paid for it cash, which reminds me of a John Bellion song that I was listening to today. He said the same thing. He's like, I paid $7,000 for the Marty McFly's, and I'm still worried about being broke. Yeah. And so I'm like, man, that's the same thing. We spent this grip on a BMW, and I'm literally afraid that I'm not going to have money to put gas in. I was so afraid. I had such a poor mentality that I took the car back to BMW and I told them, I think there's a hole in the gas tank.
Wow.
Because the gas is going too far. Like, it's going too quick. They looked at me like I was this, like, are you borrowing your dad's car, son? Because they were like, what car did you have before? I was like, well, I had this Nissan. They're like, oh, it's a 4-cylinder. You just bought an 8-cylinder car. Whoa. This car gets 12 miles to the gallon. This is what you bought. And I went away feeling so stupid. And that was the day that I was like, you know what, God, I will no longer have this fear. I can't. It's either take the damn car back or just stop. And that was a day like I had to break off this poor person mentality. And I never looked at the gas again. And it changed my whole world because I stopped looking at my bank accounts. I stopped looking I told Jillian, our business manager, I was like, hey, call us when we're getting close to being broke. Literally, I had to do that for a good couple years so that money wouldn't have such a strong hold on
Manny
me.
would still purchase like the no name brand cleaning products,
Yeah.
cereal,
Wow.
Yo, because in Bible
fruity
college,
circles,
we
like,
shopped at the dollar store.
Yeah.
We were poor as hell. Like, I didn't eat out. I ate out for the first time when I graduated college. People were like, "You want to go to Fridays or Bennigan's?" I was like, "What's that?" Had no clue. Never been.
How long did it take you to like stop buying no name brands? Like to really kind of get into like I can afford this.
Once
like,
he experienced 2-ply toilet paper,
He
was
never went
like,
back.
"Ooh,
It
look
wasn't
at
till
that."
it wasn't till when I did break it, when I finally broke it, I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna pay attention to certain things. Then I started just celebrating the little things. As I
Right.
started getting
Yeah, you were
like
on the
little
journey.
milestones, I would celebrate.
That's
And it was
cool.
the first time I bought the Jordans, the Jordan 9s. I was like, it was a big thing because I saw Will Smith have them on Fresh Prince, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna buy this.
Let's go.
And I started slowly getting into the nicer things, and it was all responsible. I return 90% of the things I buy, but it was always we had this rule that if you made whatever money you made, you could spend 10% on it, whatever it is.
That's cool.
So if I got a $10,000 check, 1,000 I can go do whatever I want.
Mhm.
Because if you're spending 10 and saving 90, that's hella responsible.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And that was just like the rule that we lived on.
I remember one moment of celebration. And this wasn't even necessarily for me in my situation because I had just moved to LA and I was poor, but I was living at my cousin's house and doing a load of laundry. And I remember I got the softener sheet, the dryer sheet, and I ripped it in half and I put just the half in the dryer because that's what I'm used to. And then my cousin comes, who I'm living with. He goes, no, 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 no. He grabs like 2 or 3 dryer sheets and he throws them in there. He's like, we doing good now.
No.
And he throws in like 3 dryer sheets.
That's amazing.
And it was like,
Celebrate good times.
dang,
Come
that's
on.
freedom right there.
But did you grow up with was your parents the same like poor man mentality?
Yeah, we didn't have much. And when my parents got divorced, I saw my mom try to provide for 4 children on a hairstylist budget. And my dad was like renting a room from different people's houses. So when we would go with my dad, we had to stay at the Motel 6, and that was his weekend, you know? And so we didn't have a lot. And but my mom always made it work. And I don't want to say that my dad paid child support, so he did help, you know. But my mom definitely always made it work. She found a way to make it work, and I saw her sacrifice for the longest time. She had one pair of jeans, and those jeans had a hole right in the crotch, but she would still wear them every day because if she got money, she was going to make sure her kids had clothes, not her.
Wow.
So I grew up watching that and that sacrifice. And yeah, now when I learned money skills from school, I remember taking a money class like in 5th grade, and they were teaching you about like this is a nickel, this is a quarter, this is whatever, and like teaching you like what money is, and here's a fake checkbook, and here's how you balance a checkbook for pretend. And I learned that in 5th grade, and up until things started changing to digital and computer, I would balance my checkbook to the T. I knew exactly how many pennies I had in the bank because I would balance my checkbook all the time. However, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, and then sometimes not even that, trying to ask friends for money. I just knew exactly how much I had
Right.
in the bank, and it was -$7 or what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so I knew about money. I just didn't have a way of making it and keeping it.
Right.
So I just remember when the shift started happening for me, I lived off of giveaways. All of my clothes were hand-me-downs from my friends. I wore the same Converse for years and years and years when I moved out here. And I remember people would like, when I start getting fans and stuff, people would post like, yeah, Angela's style, like she always wears her Converse when she performs stand-up. And I was like, oh, that's funny. It's really just because those are the only shoes that I have. But cool, that's my thing. And so everything was hand-me-downs. And then I started making money. And I feel like I was always responsible out the gate once I started getting money because like I knew how to balance it. It was just like, oh, now I actually have it coming in. I think I know what to do with it.
For someone who grew up poor, you're really good with not being afraid of money.
Yeah.
I have to
Yeah.
check in. I check in. Even this, I was telling Beast, I was like, it was a really hard day for me today because I was crying all day because sometimes the money thing will rear its head of like the fear, you
Yeah.
know? Like nobody wants to go back to being poor. And not that we're in that place right now, but it's easy, you know, when you don't have long money, like a couple bad years and you're like, oh, back to where we started, you know, and the fear still creeps and just never afraid. Whereas me, I'll get real like, I've been poor before, so I know how to do it. I'm like, if I gotta start selling crap, all right, cool, I'll go back to this and we'll just have to figure it out. She don't ever really get scared about stuff like that. And I'm like, man, I'm glad she doesn't because she's like a little bit of sane in this relationship. But how about you guys? How did you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up, I'm guessing, I grew up ministry families.
Pretty similar.
I didn't know, in the Murphy line, I didn't know we were ever struggling in a sense. My dad had that same thing with my grandparents in that he was one of 7. And my grandma raised 7 kids and had a full-time job at the same time and didn't drive. Like, freaking, she can drink as much wine as she wants these days. Like, the woman's owned it. And my granddad worked at a funeral home. He owned a funeral home. Dad used to tell weird stories about them, like running around playing hide and seek in coffins and weird crap like that. But they never knew they were poor. Dad never knew he was poor. He said every Saturday morning, my granddad would bring home a box of Rose's chocolates, which is like all these miniature chocolates, and they would all like make memories doing that. They'd have a vacation every year. He never knew. And I had this feeling we grew up in a similar way in that my dad just learned how to make memories and focus the importance on memories rather than money. So they might not have all been really nice vacations, but we took family vacation every single year. My mom came, they would call her like a 10-pound pom. She and her family, my granddad escaped World War II. He escaped 7 prisoner of war camps before he actually, they won, he got out for real. And then he met my grandma. They got married, had my uncle, and then had my mom. And then they paid £10 and all got on a boat and were shipped to Australia, sorry. And so she really grew up with like not having anything at all, like food stamps, like just real poor. And so even when she grew up as a flight attendant, back when like flight attendants were like Instagram influencers now, like, like the little celebrities of the day.
Yeah.
And she had a lot of money. She was still tied to that whole fear of finance, and that would come out every now and then. And we just had a conversation about it the other day. I remember every now and then we'd go and get McDonald's on a Sunday night as like a tradition. And every now and then Macca's in Australia, she would say, all right, kids, this is the last McDonald's for a while. We're pulling the belt in. And even as a kid, what she was saying was cool. Like, she's showing us, give and take, different seasons, but you could feel the fear as a kid. And we talked about it. We had a conversation about it the other day, but it definitely put something in me of, I always felt like I was responsible for finances in my family, even if I was 7 years old. And I grew up like that. So I always grew up not realizing that I was trying to make my dollar stretch to the length of fear rather than just kind of being smart with it. So I would live well under my means and not be generous at all because I was like, well, I don't want to be out of control with finances. So I'd live at home till I moved to LA. And then you hit the big city and it's like, oh crap, what's happening? So that was kind of how I grew up. But I would say what shaped my finance emotional quotient, if you will, would have been, I guess, the trauma from my marriage, because there was a fair bit of what I would just say is like financial betrayal that happened. And I'm being vague intentionally, but I do want to talk about it because I think people can relate to that. And it really instilled in me this fear of, you can't trust anyone else with finances. You have to be in control. And there's a lot of stuff on the front end of like when we were dating that there was a check in my spirit, is how I would say it. But I didn't ask the second or third question. I was just like, are you out of debt? Yep. Okay, cool. And something in me just knew there was other things going on. Um, and the financial issues were never, the financial conversations were never longer than like 45 seconds. And it was always like, yep, babe, I got it. Like, it's all going to be good. And I wanted to believe that, but I never went deeper. And so I think in dating, it's a really interesting time to take stock of financial responsibility before you get into a marriage. And I don't just mean like have the conversation. I mean, know each other's like, credit rating? Like, we don't really have credit ratings in Australia, so I didn't really know to look at that. Things like that. Know what their bank account like looks like, because that stuff's really important. And after that, I had to do a lot of work with therapy and building back up my credit score for lots of different reasons, and paying off all my debt, which I did in the first 6 months, to get to a point where I was back on my own 2 feet. And it definitely affected me, because I remember when I came back from Australia, we were looking for, I slept on a futon, one of our friends' futon for like 4 months in her like kids' room when I first got back. So we're looking for an apartment, and I really felt, you guys remember, that I wanted to live by myself. But I was looking for rent that was so under, kind of like Shakira, like looking so far under my budget. Like, God's going to provide a miracle.
$250 a month. Thank you so
Yes,
much, Lord.
in Santa Monica. I believe it.
Yes, on the beach.
Shonda Hoddle. So I was looking, and I remember taking my friend Christina, Julian's wife, with me. We're looking at literally a caravan. It was like a glorified caravan in someone's backyard in the like not great area of the valley. Like, just like, oh, I'm gonna get jumped. Like,
I
my
remember
first
those
week. Yeah.
days.
And so we have a look at it. She's like, okay, we're going to go now. And I was like, I mean, we can keep looking. She's like, nope, it's time. And so we're driving away, and she's like, Elise, do you think maybe God's trying to tell you, like, it's okay, he wants to actually provide for you, but not in the way you think? You keep trying to be in control now out of fear of your budget. So you're looking at $1,000 or less a month for these like dirt places. What if he's trying to bring you more income, and you can trust him now? Like, you can trust him. He's not going to screw you over. And I think for me, that weaved like theme throughout, growing up, and then really the trauma of the last 5-6 years has landed me in a place now of making that decision of like, hey, there is a balance between trusting God and self-responsibility. But you don't have to just go on the extreme of either. So it's kind of like a long way to say, yes, I was affected.
And be
Oh
yours.
my God.
Yeah, mine is similar in the sense that, especially in the early days of my dad's ministry and our family, I mean, ministry wasn't bringing in really hardly anything. And so our family was literally living off the support of other people, like other people who felt like God led them to like help out our family,
Wow.
like on just the necessities. And I remember my parents, a lot of their arguments had to deal with money. And I remember one specific moment, it was probably somewhere between 4th grade and 6th grade, like somewhere in that area. And I just remember one night, it was late night. I had heard some noises kind of downstairs, and I walked downstairs and I could hear my parents talking. And I just remember this moment of my mom saying, babe, we're not going to make it. We don't have enough. And without even hearing kind of the context of that, I just remember somewhere in my subconscious, that thing got tattooed.
Yeah.
And there was always this fear inside of me that we're not going to make it. We're not going to have enough. Now, again, we weren't living in the projects or nothing. We were living in a middle-class neighborhood, but we were kind of the poor people in the middle-class neighborhood. And
That reminds me of a Chappelle.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And so once I got of age to kind of like start to go get a job, I just remember always having this fear. Every time I get paid, I'd be like, man, this is not going to be enough. I'm not going to be able to live off this. And I remember just like specifically moments in college, like you're a broke college student, you don't got nothing. And money has always been something that I've been scared of. And it's crazy because for so many years, I've been so scared to check my bank account. Like, even though you have enough, like, I'm going to be able to eat good, I'm going to be able to pay my rent, all my utilities, all those sorts of things. But I am scared that somehow there's going to be a mistake or a glitch in the bank, and I'm going to have nothing. And I'm going to be like, oh my God, how am I going to make it this month? How am I going to eat? And again, there was such this like poverty mentality. And the thing about that poverty mentality is with that, you feel like there's never going to be enough. And when you feel like that, you can't be generous.
Mhm.
And that carries over not just in money, but I can't be generous with my time. I can't be generous with a lot of other things.
Wow.
I think generosity comes out of this place of, hey, there's always enough.
Mhm.
Like, and really a lot of this comes down to if I trust God with my money or not. And I'm super thankful for one thing. I think early on, somehow, there was something inside of me where I got a taste for a different kind of lifestyle. It's probably the hip hop influence in my life. And I'm seeing all these rappers and, you know, I'm seeing all these chains and these nice whips and everything. And there was something in me that thought early on, it was more ego. Like, yo, I'm trying to be that nigga.
Mhm.
I think now I realize, oh, I'm called to be that. And I'm called to have wealth in my life because I'm called to be a blessing to so many people around me. I'm called to be generous with it.
Yeah.
So the thing that I think that's going to get me there is this hustle mentality that I got from my mom. And so it was crazy because at the same time of me being afraid of being broke, there's this gear that I kick into where I was like, well, I'm not going to be broke. So I'm going to hustle and as much as I can. I remember like, even when I got my first like full-time job outside of playing pro basketball, which that was another thing during that season.
Right.
For the first time in my bank account, I have thousands of dollars. Like, and when I was my first season, I'm getting paid in cash. So I'm literally flying like family and friends out to come spend time with me because I'm hella lonely. But then I'm sending them back with thousands of dollars of cash. And I'm like, hey, just hold it for me because there's no way to transfer that to my bank account back home. And so that's a whole nother thing. Like, and I remember in the resort that I was living at, I have all this cash in the safe.
Dang.
And I am so afraid that this is going to be gone. And I remember I would count my money. Like I had just counted it a day before. There was nothing that was added or subtracted, but there was literally this fear that maybe something's changed. Maybe I got it off. And so it's been such a thing that I've been scared of. And one of the things that really changed for me was Maddie. And again, and kind of in the same way in your guys' dynamic, Maddie's never been afraid of money. Like I remember the conversation we had when we were right before we got engaged and then once we got engaged and once we joined bank accounts in our engagement, which again, I don't know if I'd recommend that to people because there's a lot of engagements that break off.
Yeah.
For us, we felt like it was right, whatever. So when we did that, I just remember there was this confidence of like, yo, we're going to be good. And it was all because Maddie was not afraid of money. Now, Maddie, her family is well off. Her dad's a dentist, has several practices in Alabama. They're good. Now, again, money has never been the thing that Maddie is after. It's like, it's so weird. And that's another thing that she's taught me is like, yo, when you have the right mentality, these things come to you. And I'm so relying on my ability to hustle and make it happen. And now I feel like I'm getting to a much healthier place where I'm just like, yeah, I got it. I work hard. I do my thing. I'm responsible. I save. And now it's crazy because more money's coming to me. Like literally this morning, I get a check in the mail from a settlement that I had no idea about. It was $508. Like that's significant.
Dang.
And it was funny because I'm like, wow.
Another Shakira. Gosh.
Oh man, there's another Shakira. And like,
The
yeah.
name of Elise's car in case you forgot
sorry,
from earlier.
sorry, guys. Hips don't lie.
So it's so interesting with that because, yeah, like we're set to do, and this is another thing too. Last thing, I feel like I'm talking a lot. Maddie's really helped me because I feel like if God really wants to bless me in the way that I could really bless everyone around me, help make people's dreams come true, like I can't have that poverty mentality. And it's like, it's almost like this thing that's like clogging up the pipe of like blessings. And the longer that I'm afraid of money, God can't give me money.
Right.
And so it's been a thing. So it's like, it's a process for me. I'm still in it because that thing rears its head up a lot for me.
All the time.
And
Where he's
especially
like
when you're-
protecting you. Like, I don't want to feed your fear, son. So I'm
Yeah.
going to
Well,
hold this
because
back.
again, if you grow up poor, you just don't want to go back, you know. And I think that was because we had a talk. This whole week was kind of like a talk of just about finances and what's the future looking like. And whenever we have those talks in our marriage, like I literally get into like survival mode. So I always tell Ange, I'm like, hey, What do you want to sell? You want to get rid of the house?
I'll be like,
I'll be
babe,
like-
one of my shows this weekend isn't selling very well. Do we need to sell the house?
I just always want her
That's
to
not
know.
what I
Relax, bruh.
said.
I always wanted to know that I'm not attached to any of these things. Like, I'll get rid of it all. Like, I don't need any of this crap.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Like, what's the when you grow up poor, like you don't want to go back, but then there's like not a fear of it. What do you think that comes from then? Does it make sense?
The fear of going back.
Like when you grow up poor and you don't want to go back to that.
Mhm.
But then you were saying like even the thought of not having enough, like we'll sell it, we'll go back to that. It almost kind of feels like a.
Well, we wouldn't
does
go
that make
back to
sense?
poor. We would just go back to not a crazy lifestyle.
You don't want to go back to like debt or like
No.
feeling like
I
you're,
won't go
like,
back to that. I'm just
got
saying
it.
downgrade the life and just live like where there's no, because we have a lot of overhead. Like
Sure.
we're in a place where overhead is high, and so I look at the amount of money that goes out just to keep this whole thing afloat, and I'm like, that's a lot of money we could
Yeah.
be keeping for ourselves. But it's what it takes to run a business. But I always like try in my heart to stay, because since I got out of working full time, which has been a blessing. This is why I get mad at myself. And I don't know why. I was literally crying all day because I was just angry with the Lord. Like, I need something to work, I need something to pop for me. And I laugh because since I got out of group 1, I've worked the least amount and I've made the most. I've had
Wow.
a 6-figure year every year. And then this year I'm selling a couple houses that we got, and it's over $500,000. So it's like we're gonna make off of these sales of the houses. So it's another great year. But I'm still like, oh,
'Cause it's not
why
like a
aren't you
9 to 5.
it's
like
I don't feel like
Mhm.
I'm doing something and whatever. And so I'm just praying to Frank Sinatra, as all good Christians do.
What?
Frank Sinatra, My Way. It was on repeat for like 30
You
minutes.
should worship. Come
And
on,
I was
church,
just
raise your hands.
worshiping, and I was like, God, I started off like, God, I need you to come through. I need you to make something happen, make something pop. I'm doing so much work. I hustle so much.
I did it
And then-
my way.
And it went from that to me being like, you know what? I just want to say thanks, man. Thanks for everything. Because I don't want to sound like an a-hole to you. I just want to be thankful for everything that you've given me. And at what point am I going to stop doubting you? At what point am I, like, we've come so far. And I literally remember saying this to him. I was like, did you give us these gifts just to end up nowhere? Like, why would you give us these gifts and take us on a trajectory that looks like we're going to succeed to only let us fall? And I was like pronouncing like death over us. And I was so angry with myself because I'm like, we haven't fallen yet. We haven't fallen yet. Thank you. Thank you for everything you've given us. Thank you for what's coming. This year is going to be amazing. I'm like, you're going to bless. Something's going to happen and I'm going to get rocked. You're going to bless me. And I just changed my whole tone. But there's this cloud over me that really tries to rain down, and it's a horrible thing.
I feel like there could be a little bit of clarification just on what you were saying about like, come on, Lord, I need something to pop off for me. But then you could say like, but then I had a 6-figure year. I think the clarification for everybody listening is that you have been pursuing music for a really long time, and you have not been able to catch your stride in that to where in the way that I have a stride in stand-up comedy, where I can provide for us in stand-up, that you work so hard in music, and then Group and Crew just never gets to that place of like being a financial moneymaker and the door's shut. And then you get this record deal that's the biggest record deal you've ever had, and it's like, all right, cool, this is the thing finally that's going to pop off for you, and then that just disappears and goes away. And then it's like you do this sync music where you're writing songs for TV and movies, and it's like you get a call from your agent like, hey, we got a placement on a TV show. Like, yes, but it's only $1,000. Oh, okay, so that's not going to pay my mortgage, but hey, cool, thank you. Like, that's somewhere. So just to clarify, because it could be a little confusing hearing you say like, oh, I've had this like big year, but then nothing's popping off for me. Just to like clarify, like your actual dreams and goals, we would love to see the fruit of how hard you actually do work, because you work so hard, but the fruit that you end up seeing almost seems like an accidental thing. Like, oh, we didn't know we were going to sell these houses and bring in that money. But it's one of those like, thank you, that's great. But man, I would love to succeed at the thing I'm actually trying for.
Yeah, it's the like, it's almost like the dreams that it's like we all have like that income, but then there's always these dreams sitting in our heart of like, man, I'd love those dreams to be the income, to be the thing that like brings in.
Because it doesn't feel like work. Music doesn't feel
Yeah.
like work for me.
Yeah.
And I don't, you know, it does become something that, you know, and I know this is like the story of every relationship. At least there's relationships which sometimes the man is not making the money, and it's really hard for a man to. I've typically been okay with it because I'm like, I know how to use money. So she may make way more than me, but I'm gonna take what she makes and I'm gonna turn that shit into like way more, you know? But I'm usually not affected by it. But there's some times where when she's stressed, I'm like, Jesus, come through, bro. I'm ready to take over the reins. Like, nigga, bless me. Like, if I'm gonna be the one making all the money, cool. What I need to do? Because I enjoy that pace, you know, whereas Ange is not.
I'm like, I need a rest,
Yeah,
y'all.
she doesn't
I
like-
need to relax.
She doesn't like juggling things, and I'm the nigga that's like with the clowns. Like, I want to juggle everything, you know. That's just how I'm wired. But I also understand that, you know, I have a road, and that's the other part of my prayer. I was like, God, thank you for my path.
Yeah.
Just thank you for my path, whatever it means, wherever it's at. I don't want to wish for anybody else's path, you know. I just want to be grateful for mine, grateful for Ange's. And trust that where you're gonna take us is gonna be a good place, you know. And that's where like the prayer ended. But I was super, super affected. I was like, I need to talk to someone. I was gonna talk to you in yoga, but you had to leave. I was like, damn.
Sorry.
People got lives.
Leaving
Sorry.
No,
boy
she got
out
life.
here.
She got life.
Namaste.
I was like, namaste, your ass here. Talk to me.
I'm stressed.
Sorry.
Andrew was in meetings. I was like, damn, I need someone.
You
Jesus.
said it.
But I do think that when it comes to finances, it is something which young people or like cats that are getting married or cats that just at the beginning where they, you know, they really do think love is all you need. And I'm
No,
like,
bro.
that is not true. Love is not all you, love goes out the window when you cannot pay rent. You
Yeah.
can't be in love on the
No.
streets. It doesn't happen. It doesn't matter. It's a statistic. I'm the most romantic person you'll ever meet. I believe in romance, but love is not all you need.
Unless you're on meth, because then it's cloudy and
Yeah.
you don't really
You
know
got
what's
that-
happening.
You got a
so.
different method of love, but it's definitely something that you need to address. Like what B said, and for whatever reason, my friends knew like I had to know this girl and how she spent money, because money is the direct dictator of, or it's indicator of how mature someone is. How if they can understand that if 1 + 1 = 2 and you only have 2 to spend, you ain't gonna go spend 4. If you can't understand that crap, you ain't in my life.
And we talked about that. If someone didn't listen to it and is interested in that, we talked about that on the love series on how to get love. Ange had you guys had some good thoughts on that. So
Yeah.
go check it out.
And even like too, for me, like growing up with that kind of mentality was not an excuse. So like I bought books, I watched YouTube videos. Like it's amazing what you can learn. Like if that's something like say
Finance
you're not familiar
podcasts
with,
these days?
like there's so much material and information that can
Yeah.
help teach you. Get people
Yeah.
in your life who know how to do money well.
Yeah.
And learn from them and glean from them. And next thing you know, it's like, oh, yeah, because it's like it's one of those crazy things. I just had to learn all of this on my own. And I'm still learning.
Yeah.
But it's getting better.
Set strategies. One of the things that we do is that if you want to buy something, you need double in the bank. That's the rule that I have. And I tell all my friends that are just beginning to learn about money. So if you want to buy $100 shoes, you need 200 in the bank. If you want to buy a $1,000 computer, you need 2 in the bank. You cannot afford it if once you spend the money on it, you don't have any money left. That is not affording it. I had a friend that was like, yo, I got $1,500. Should I buy drums or should I buy a MacBook? I was like, okay, you got $1,500? What do you have in your savings? I got $1,500. I was like, well, bro, you can't afford it then. He's like, what do you mean? I got $1,500. And
You
I'm
got
like,
money for rent, bro.
once you spend the $1,500, what happens if your car gets a flat? What
Yeah.
happens if your car breaks down? What happens if you get sick and have to go to the hospital? You ain't got no money, bro.
Mhm.
So you save up $3,000 and then go buy the computer. And it was like he just couldn't wrap. He's like, why would I save so much to try to buy this thing? And I'm like, bruh, double in the bank. Just make that a rule. Unless you're talking about houses, and then that gets a little too crazy. But most things, if
I
you can
need
have
2
double,
million in the bank.
you know, little strategies like that can help you. Look, we can go on and on. This is one of these things where we'll probably have another one if you guys dig it. We'd love to hear like questions or anything that you guys have, specific questions or problems that you may be going through. DM any one of us individually, or just DM the podcast Nights at the Round Table Pod on Instagram, and we'll answer whatever you want. Or just leave a comment here on YouTube if you're watching us on YouTube. Were you gonna say something, Queen?
Nope. She
Okay.
came close to the microphone. She's
I'm
ready for
getting
the
ready for the
benediction.
benediction.
Love you guys so much. Thanks for listening,
benediction.
man. This was Money Talks.
Money,
And
money,
hey,
money,
man, we pray you
money.
find a seat at the table. But if you don't, you are always welcome in ours. Cheers.
Cheers.
This is good.
Take my money.
When I'm in need.